Chapter 2 My Lord at the White Hart Part 2 of Black Moth by Georgette read for LibriVox.org into the public domain. He was still holding forth when my lord entered the room. Carstairs raised his glass languidly to survey the assembled company, bowed slightly, and walked over to the fire. He seated himself in an armchair and took no further notice of anybody. Mr. Hedges had recognised at a glance that here was some grand seigneur, and wished that Mr. Fudby would not speak in so loud a voice. But that individual, delighted at having a new auditor, continued his tale with much relish and in a still louder tone. My lord yawned delicately and took a pinch of snuff. "Yes, yes," fussed Mr. Hedges, "but short of sending to London for the runners, I do not see what I can do. If I send to London it must of course be at your expense, sir." Mr. Fudby bristled. "At my expense, sir? Do you say at my expense? I am surprised. I repeat, I am surprised." "Indeed, sir, I can order the town crier out, describing the horse, and offering a reward for the capture of any man on such an animal. But," he shrugged, and looking across at the town clerk, "I do not imagine that 'twould be of much use, eh, Mr. Brand?" The town clerk pursed his lips and spread out his hands. "Fear not. I fear very much not. I would advise Mr. Fudby to have a proclamation posted up round the country." He sat back with an air of one who has contributed his share to the work, and does not intend to offer any more help. "Ho!" growled Mr. Fudby. He blew out his cheeks. "'Twill be a grievous expense, though I suppose it must be done, and I cannot but feel that if it had not been for your deplorably cowardly conduct, Chilter—yes, cowardly conduct, I say—I might never have been robbed out of my 200. He snuffled a little, and eyed the flushed but silent Chilter with mingled reproach and scorn. "However, my coachman assures me that he could swear to the horse again, although he cannot remember much about the man himself. Chilter, how did he describe the horse?" "Oh, chestnut, Mr. Fudby. Chestnut, with a half-moon of white on its forehead, and one white foreleg." Jack perceived that it was time he took a hand in the game. He half turned in his chair and levelled his quizzing glass at Mr. Chilter. "I beg your pardon," he drawled. Mr. Fudby's eyes brightened. The fine gentleman was roused to an expression of interest at last. He launched forth into his story once more for my lord's benefit. Carstairs eyed him coldly, seeing which, Mr. Hedges came hurriedly to the rescue. Yes, Mr. Fudby, quite so. Your pardon, sir, I have not the honour of knowing your name." "Ferndale," supplied Jack. "Sir Anthony Ferndale." Yes," Mr. Hedges bowed. "Pray pardon my importuning you with our—" "Not at all," said my lord. "No, quite so. The fact is, these—gentlemen have had the misfortune to be waylaid on their journey here." Sir Anthony's glass was again levelled at the group. His expression betokened mild surprise. "All these gentlemen?" he inquired blandly. "Oh, no, sir, not at all, only Mr. Fudby," said that worthy, and discovered that Sir Anthony was bowing frigidly. At once he rose, and, resting his knuckles on the table before him, bent his body slowly and painfully. Sir Anthony inclined his head, whereupon, to the delight of all the rest, Mr. Fudby bowed again with even greater stateliness than before. Mr. Hedges observed Sir Anthony's lips twitch convulsively. He waited for Mr. Fudby to subside, and then he continued, "Yes, Mr. Fudby and Mr.—" "My clerk!" snapped Fudby. Sir Anthony favoured Mr. Chilter with his peculiarly sweet smile, and turned again to Mr. Hedges. "I see. A daylight robbery, you say?" "Broad daylight!" boomed Mr. Fudby. Yes," interposed the mayor, fearing a fresh outbreak from that quarter. "I wonder if you have seen anything of such an animal as Mr. Chilter described?" "'Tis a most extraordinary thing," said Carstairs slowly, "but I've just bought such an one." He glanced round with an inquiring smile and one eyebrow lifted. "Well!" ejaculated Mr. Fudby. "Well! Dear me, what a strange coincidence! May I ask where you bought it, and from whom?" "She has not been in my possession over 2 hours. I bought her from an out-at-elbows ruffian on my way hither. I thought at one time that 'twas strange that the man should possess such a mare, purebred I vow, and I wondered why he was so eager to be rid of her." "He was eager because he knew he would be recognised by her," explained Mr. Fudby kindly. "Without a doubt. Perhaps you would like to see her. I will send my man—" "Oh, no," cried the mayor. "We would not dream of so inconveniencing you." "'Twere a pleasure," bowed Jack, devoutly hoping that Mr. Fudby would not require to see Jenny, who he felt sure would betray him by her very evident affection. No, no, Sir Anthony, 'tis quite unnecessary, I assure you. But I thank you for all that. Mr. Fudby, if you would describe the man himself, I will see to the proclamation. Describe him, Chilter, ordered Mr. Fudby, who was becoming rather grumpy. Mr. Chilter smiled suddenly. Certainly, sir, he said with alacrity. 'Twas a great ruffianly fellow, monstrously tall. How tall? Interrupted the town clerk. 6 feet? Oh, quite, lied Mr. Chilter, and fat. Jack's shoulders shook. Fat, you say? He asked gently. Very fat, affirmed Mr. Chilter, and prodigious rough, swearing dreadfully in his speech. You could not see his face, I suppose? Mr. Chilter hesitated. I could see his mouth and chin, he said, and I remarked a long scar running from his underlip to the bottom of his face. Involuntarily Carstairs' hand caressed his perfectly smooth chin. Either the little clerk was a born romancer, or for some reason or other he did not want the highwayman to be taken. Well, Sir Anthony, the mayor was saying, does that description fit your man? My lord frowned thoughtfully. Tall, he said slowly, and fat. You said fat, I think, Mr. Chilter? Rather anxiously Mr. Chilter reiterated this statement. Ah, and with a long scar. Yes, that is undoubtedly he. Furthermore, he added audaciously, he has a squint in his left eye. 'Tis a most ill-favoured rogue and all. It would appear so, Sir Anthony, remarked the mayor dryly. He did not in the least believe the story of the squint, and imagined that the fine court gentleman was amusing himself at their expense. Nevertheless, he had no intention of remonstrating. The sooner he could withdraw from this very tiresome affair the better. So he gravely took down all the absurd particulars, remarked that the man should be easy to find, and made ready to depart. The town clerk rose, and tapped the beadle on the shoulder, whereupon that worthy, with a grunt, abandoned his pose of masterly inactivity and followed the mayor out of the room. Mr. Fudby rose. I doubt I shall never see my money again, he said pettishly. If you, Chilter, had not been so— Allow me to offer you some snuff, Mr. Chilter, interposed my lord gently, extending his jewelled box. Doubtless, sir, you would wish to see my mare? I know not of horses, snorted Mr. Fudby. 'Tis my clerk who appears to have remarked all the details. He sneered terrifically. Then pray, do me the honour of walking as far as the stables, Mr. Chilter. 'Twere as well to be certain about the mare. Mr. Fudby, your servant. And now, Mr. Chilter, I have a grudge against you, said Carstairs, as they walked across the little garden. Me, sir? Oh, have you, Sir Anthony? He looked up and perceived that the gentleman was laughing. Yes, Mr. Chilter, a very serious grudge. You have described me as fat. Chilter nearly fainted. You, sir, he gasped, and stared in amazement. Also that I swear dreadfully in my speech, and I have a scar running from my mouth to my chin. Mr. Chilter stood stock still in the middle of the path. It was you, sir, all the time. You held us up. Were you the man who wrenched open the door? I was that infamous scoundrel. I beg leave once more to apologize for my carelessness in opening that same door. Now, tell me, why did you take such pains to throw dust in their sleepy eyes? They resumed their walk slowly. The little clerk flushed. I scarcely know, sir, save that I liked you, and— I see. 'Twas prodigious good of you, Mr. Chilter. I wonder if there is anything that I can do to show my gratitude. Again the clerk flushed and lifted his head proudly. I thank you, sir, but there is not. By now they had reached the stable. Carstairs opened the door and entered. Then will you accept this in token of my regard, sir? Mr. Chilter gazed at the emerald ring that glowed and winked at him from the palm of my lord's hand. He looked up into the blue eyes and stammered a little. Indeed, sir, "'Tis honestly come by," pleadingly. "Come, Mr. Chilter, you'll not hurt my feelings by refusing. You will keep it in remembrance of a fat man, Mr. Chilter, who rudely jerked you onto the road?" The clerk took it with most unsteady fingers. "I thank you most—" "Nay, I beg of you. 'Tis I thank you for aiding me so kindly. Come and see my Jenny. Well, lass?" For the mare at the first sound of his voice had turned in her loose box and was whinnying and pawing the ground eagerly. "I do not understand, sir, anything. How is it that you are a highwayman, or why have you honoured me with your confidence? Why should you trust me? But thank you." As he spoke, Mr. Chilter placed his hand in my lord's, and for the second time in his life felt the pressure of those firm, kindly fingers. "Why, your honour, you've lost your emerald." "No, Jim, I gave it away." "You gave it away, sir?" To the small spider." But... And he called me fat, too. Called you fat, sir? Asked the man, bewildered. Yes, very fat. By the way, let me tell you that I bought Jenny at Fittering to-day from the naughty ruffian who waylaid Mr. Bumblebee. He proceeded to give Jim a sketch of what had transpired below. When he had finished, the man shook his head severely. "I doubt you'll never learn wisdom, sir," he scolded. "I? What have I done?" "What did you want to tell it all to the Spider-Man for, sir? 'Twas most incautious of you. Like as not he'll split to the fat gentleman, and we'll have the whole town at our heels." "Which just shows you all you know of the small spider," replied his master, calmly. "Hand me the powder." End of Chapter 2, Part 2. Read by Sabella Denton. For more free audiobooks or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org.